The soft cry of baby Caleb crackled through the monitor, pulling Nathan Carter from his restless sleep. The clock read 2:47 a.m. He sighed, rubbed his forehead, and swung his legs off the bed, ready for another sleepless night. But the crying stopped. Odd. Caleb usually cried for a long time before settling. Nathan threw on a light robe and stepped quietly into the dark hallway. A faint light spilled from the nursery. He walked faster, heart suddenly uneasy. What he saw made him freeze. Lena Torres, the 28-year-old live-in nanny he'd hired just weeks ago, sat in the rocking chair, holding Caleb close to her chest. But what made Nathan stop breathing? Caleb was nursing directly from her. He stood in shock, speechless. What are you doing?" he asked, his voice low and rough but sharp like a blade. Lena jolted. She scrambled to pull a light blanket over herself, her hands trembling. "Mr. Carter, I can explain." Caleb, meanwhile, continued to feed peacefully, his tiny face serene, more at peace than Nathan had seen in weeks. "Then explain," Nathan said again. His voice was softer now, but filled with disbelief. Lena's eyes welled up. Her voice was barely audible. "Since I arrived, he's always hungry. He cries all the time, refuses the bottle. I still had milk because I lost my baby, and I couldn't watch him suffer." She choked back a sob, wiping at her face with the back of her hand. Nathan stood motionless. Suddenly, everything began to make sense. Why Caleb was calmer, why Lena always seemed tired, why he'd seen her in the bathroom with a breast pump. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "You lost a baby?" he asked quietly. Lena nodded, red-eyed. "Her name was Sophie. She lived 3 days." Nathan felt like the air had been knocked out of him, the room filled with silence, heavy and sacred. He looked at Lena, not as the nanny anymore, but as a grieving mother trying to save another child to save herself. Caleb had fallen asleep in her arms, his face peaceful, safe. "How long has this been going on?" Nathan asked. "Since the second week," Lena admitted. "At first only when you were out. But then he started seeking me out, and I couldn't say no." Nathan sat across from her, eyes never leaving Caleb. For the first time in months, he saw his son truly at ease. "What was your daughter's name again?" he asked, voice low. "Sophie," Lena whispered. "My baby." The name hung between them like a prayer. "I'm sorry," she said, voice cracking. "I know I had no right." "Don't apologize," Nathan said gently. He looked down at his son, sleeping soundly for the first time in what felt like forever. "I haven't seen him sleep this peacefully in weeks," Nathan murmured. Lena's tears fell freely now, but a fragile smile broke through. "I didn't mean to deceive you," she said. I needed to feel like I could save someone." There was a long pause. "Do you have enough milk for him?" Nathan asked. The question surprised her. She looked up, startled. "Yes, more than enough." Nathan was quiet. His mind was full of ethical questions, legal worries, what others would say. But when he looked at his son, he saw something he hadn't seen since Rachel died. "Peace. We'll talk more tomorrow," he said, standing. "But for now, thank you." Lena blinked, stunned. "You're not firing me?" Nathan turned back, his eyes softer now. "For the first time in 3 months, my son is healthy. I slept through the night. If you're asking whether I'm letting you go, the answer is no. Definitely not." He walked out of the room, leaning against the hallway wall. For the first time since Rachel's death, his world had changed again. But not because of tragedy. The next morning, the apartment was quiet, but the air was heavy. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, casting pale gold patterns on the wood. Lena was making coffee as usual, but her hands trembled slightly. Nathan walked in, hair tousled, eyes tired, but his expression softer than it had been the night before. "Good morning," he said quietly. Lena turned, nodded. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. I can pack up my things if you want. I understand if—" "Lena," he interrupted, pulling out a chair. "I don't want you to leave." She tightened her grip on the coffee mug. A moment of silence passed. Then Nathan spoke, voice deeper than before. "You said your daughter's name was Sophie?" Lena nodded. "She was born 2 months early. I hoped, I prayed, but her voice broke. She lived 3 days. Nathan felt his throat close. No words could touch that kind of pain. But he understood. He understood all too well. I don't know what kept me standing, Lena continued. I just knew I couldn't stay. Everyone looked at me like I was to blame. My mother couldn't even look at me. Nathan winced. So you came to New York? Yes. I sold everything. Took the bus. Didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to go. She touched her chest lightly. I still had milk. My body didn't understand Sophie was gone. I had to pump every day or I'd get sick. But every time I did, I remembered her. Nathan's eyes stung. He looked at her, not as an employee, but as a mother, broken but standing. And me, he said slowly, I think a part of me died with Rachel. Lena looked up. For the first time, she saw the weight in his eyes. She died during childbirth. I didn't make it to the hospital in time. I never got to say goodbye. And since then, I've had no idea how to be a father. He gave a bitter laugh. Caleb cried all day, all night. I bought every formula, every bottle. Nothing worked. I was ready to break. Then you showed up, he said, his voice soft. I interviewed a dozen people, but only when you held Caleb did he stop crying. Lena lowered her eyes, her own filling with tears. I never thought it would go this far, she whispered. I just wanted to help. And you did, Nathan said simply. He stared out the window, where sunlight pooled on the sill. Those first nights I saw you awake with him. He looked so calm. I knew you were doing something I didn't understand, but I didn't ask. Because I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid of what? Lena asked. Afraid of knowing the truth, afraid of being grateful, and afraid of feeling too much for someone I shouldn't. The last words hung between them like electricity. Lena bit her lip. You're not alone in that. Nathan looked at her, really looked. They were two fractured people, trying to hold each other together. He stood, walked closer. Not too close, just enough that their eyes could meet without words. Caleb is thriving, not because of me, because of you. Lena smiled through tears. I never thought I'd be a mother again, she said. But when I hold Caleb, it feels like a part of Sophie is still here. Nathan took a breath. Maybe the three of us need each other. The kitchen filled with quiet, not awkward, just honest. They sat in the stillness, surrounded by grief, but slowly, quietly, something else was beginning to grow. Hope. They said nothing more that morning. But from that moment on, something between them had quietly shifted. Subtle, yet undeniable. Something like trust. Something dangerously close to healing. What they didn't know was that just days later, the past would come knocking, with a voice sharp as a blade and cold as winter. Someone who had once loved Rachel more than anyone else, and would not accept a replacement so easily. The doorbell rang at exactly 10 a.m. on a quiet Saturday morning. Nathan had been folding Caleb's clothes when the sharp sound startled him. He wasn't expecting anyone. The bell rang again, longer and more insistent. When he opened the door, Evelyn Whitmore, Rachel's mother, stood there with two large suitcases and an icy stare. Were you planning not to answer? She said, stepping inside as though she still owned the place. Nathan froze. Hi, Evelyn. You didn't say you were coming. Called 3 times. No one picked up, she replied, placing her suitcases down and glancing around. The apartment was neat. The air smelled of coffee and baby powder. Where's Caleb? She asked, voice clipped. He's sleeping, Nathan said. Good. I'm here just in time. Nathan clenched the laundry basket in his hand. He wasn't ready for this, for the memories, the scrutiny, the Evelyn of old. When Lena walked down the stairs holding Caleb, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Evelyn looked at her from head to toe, her gaze cold, measuring. And this is... Nathan cleared his throat. Mom, this is Lena Torres, Caleb's nanny. Lena, this is Rachel's mother. Lena nodded politely, eyes lowered. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Evelyn didn't offer a handshake. She simply walked forward and extended her arms. Give me my grandson. Lena looked to Nathan for permission. He gave a slight nod. The moment Evelyn held Caleb, he began to cry. His face turned red, arms flailing. "What's wrong with him?" Evelyn asked, visibly unsettled. "He's not used to you," Nathan explained gently. "It's been just the two of us and Lena for the past few months." "Just the two of you?" Evelyn snapped, eyes narrowing. Caleb's cries grew louder. Lena stepped forward and asked softly, "May I?" The moment Caleb was back in Lena's arms, he quieted immediately, nuzzling into her chest as if nothing had happened. Evelyn tightened her grip on her handbag. "I need to speak with you, alone." Nathan looked at Lena. "Can you take Caleb out to the garden?" Once they left, Evelyn stood with her arms crossed, voice hard with accusation. "What is going on, Nathan?" "What do you mean?" Her voice broke, not with anger alone, but the strain of watching her daughter's place being filled by someone she didn't yet understand. She's clearly far too close to him. Nathan crossed his arms, trying to stay calm. "She's not a stranger. She's the first person who got him to stop crying. And you think I didn't see the way she looks at you?" Evelyn hissed. "You're reading too much into it. And you're being incredibly naive." The silence stretched, taut and brittle. "Do you even know who she is? Have you checked her past? Do you know why a young woman would come to this city alone to care for children?" Nathan faltered. All he knew was about Sophie, the daughter Lena had lost, and the pain she still carried. "She's replacing Rachel, and you're letting it happen." The words hit Nathan like a blade to the chest. He turned away, struggling to control his anger. "You don't understand. Lena isn't replacing anyone. She's helping." Evelyn stepped forward. "I won't allow someone I don't trust to infiltrate this family. Lena hasn't done anything wrong. Hasn't she?" Evelyn smirked. "I got up last night and saw something." Nathan froze. "What did you see?" "She was breastfeeding Caleb." The air froze. Nathan stepped back, eyes wide. "Can you explain that to me?" she snapped. "It's not what you think, isn't it? A widower sleeping with the help, letting her breastfeed his child like she's the boy's real mother?" "I'm not sleeping with her," Nathan growled. "Oh, really? Because I saw you kiss her 3 nights ago, in the hallway." Nathan went pale. Everything shattered. I'm sorry," he said, voice shaking. "Rachel's only been gone 6 months. 6 months, Nathan." Silence wrapped around them like barbed wire. "I thought you loved her." "I did," Nathan whispered. "I loved Rachel, and I love my son. And if my son is being healed because of the love of a woman who lost her own child, then how can that be wrong?" Evelyn gripped the edge of the table, breathing hard. Just then Lena entered, holding Caleb, eyes wide with worry. "What's happening?" Evelyn turned. "I know your dirty secret." Lena turned pale. I don't... You're breastfeeding my grandson, a baby that isn't yours. You think I didn't see that?" Tears welled up in Lena's eyes. "Because I lost my daughter, and I still had milk. I couldn't watch Caleb cry from hunger." The kitchen was stone silent. Evelyn stepped back. "You lost your child?" Lena nodded, eyes shining. "Her name was Sophie. She was born premature, died 3 days later. I just wanted to help." Evelyn went still. "What day?" she asked softly. "July 18th. Nathan looked at his mother-in-law and saw her expression change. "Rachel died on July 15th, Evelyn whispered. They stared at each other. 3 people, each grieving someone they couldn't bring back, and somehow still breathing. "There's something I never told you," Evelyn said, voice faint. "Rachel, in her final months, she told me that Caleb might not be your son." Nathan felt the ground vanish beneath him. "What?" She turned away, breathing harder, gripping the table like the truth was physically heavy. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its sharpness, now brittle, raw. She was seeing someone, a coworker. She felt guilty. 2 days before she died, she asked me to keep it a secret. Nathan stumbled backward, bracing himself against a chair. "I was angry at you, Nathan, for surviving, for smiling while my daughter was dead. But today I realized I was angry at the wrong person." Evelyn looked at Lena, then back at Nathan. Her tears finally broke free. Whether Caleb is your biological son or not, doesn't matter. You've been his father, and she's become the mother he needed. No one spoke for a long while. In the small kitchen, there was only the hum of the bottle warmer and the soft tap of wind brushing the window panes. Nathan sat slumped in his chair, hands over his head. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just sat, like a man who had lost his direction and yet was seeing everything clearly for the first time. Lena still cradled Caleb in her arms, gently soothing him with her heartbeat and breath. Her face was streaked with tears, but the fear in her eyes had faded. Evelyn stood near the sink, both hands resting on the counter. Her back was straight, but her eyes stayed low, as if looking directly at Lena was something she couldn't yet manage. "You don't have to forgive me," she said softly, her voice no longer sharp. "But I need to say this." Nathan looked up. "I didn't know how I was holding my grief," she continued. "I thought you were forgetting Rachel. I saw you sleeping again, saw Caleb smile again, saw a family forming without her." Her voice cracked. "And it made me jealous." The silence that followed felt like a confession. Lena swallowed hard. She wasn't used to being heard. She was even less used to being understood, especially by someone who had been so cold. "Rachel was my only daughter," Evelyn continued, "and I thought, if I didn't protect what was left of her, Caleb, then I had nothing left to hold on to." Nathan stood and walked toward her. "You can carry Rachel in your heart," he said gently, "but Caleb is alive, and he needs the people who are still here to love him." He turned to Lena. "You're one of them." Lena opened her mouth as if to say something, but emotion blocked her throat. Evelyn turned to her, and for the first time, really looked her in the eye. "I was wrong to only see a replacement, and not a mother, who had also lost a child." Lena's voice trembled. "I never meant to replace Rachel. I couldn't watch a baby cry from hunger, and I didn't want to lose another child, even if he wasn't mine." Evelyn exhaled. "Do you know you did something no one in this family could do these past months?" Lena looked at her, unsure how to answer. "You made Caleb smile." A tear slipped down Evelyn's cheek. For the first time, she didn't wipe it away. "You don't need to apologize," she said. I'm sorry I didn't see the truth sooner." Nathan stepped forward, placing a hand gently on his mother-in-law's shoulder. "We're all learning how to grieve," he murmured. "No one's right, no one's wrong, but the only thing we can do now is move forward, together." Evelyn nodded slowly, her eyes moist. Lena finally sat down, Caleb still sleeping soundly on her chest, his lips pressed in a tiny pout like he was still dreaming of something sweet. "There's something I want to ask," Nathan said then, turning to Lena. "Only if you're willing." She looked up at him. He remembered the first time Caleb reached for her instead of him, the way Lena never hesitated, never asked for anything in return. It wasn't just care, it was love, silent, steady, sacrificial. "Whether Caleb is my biological son or not," he said, "I don't care. He's my son. But if you agree, I want to officially see you as his mother. Not the nanny, not the help. His mother." Lena didn't smile. She simply nodded. A small nod, but one that carried the weight of something sacred, like a promise, like a contract without signatures. That kitchen on that day was no longer a place of confrontation. It had become the beginning of something unnamed and deeply real. In that moment, no one spoke of blood or blame. There was only a child sleeping peacefully on the chest of the woman he had chosen as his mother. A father standing silently beside them, feeling for the first time the courage to love again. And a grandmother, once hardened by grief, now standing not with clenched fists, but with open hands. In that stillness, though no one said it aloud, all three understood. Family isn't what you're born into. It's what you choose to keep when everything else falls apart. And sometimes, real love begins just after the moment you thought you'd never feel it again. After that fateful morning, nothing changed all at once, but everyone began to change from within. Nathan started learning how to mix formula, change diapers, and rock Caleb to sleep using lullabies Lena taught him. Sometimes he fumbled. spilled water on the floor, put Caleb's shirt on backward. But each time, Lena only smiled, never scolded, gently guiding his hands with patience. In the mornings, they made breakfast together. In the evenings, Nathan read bedtime stories while Lena nursed Caleb one last time before bed. Caleb began to recognize his father's laugh, his mother's heartbeat, and he would giggle in delight every time Nathan tossed him in the air, or when Lena hummed lullabies that once soothed her own lost child, even if the world might call those roles something else. And Evelyn, still clumsy with affection, started leaving little muffins by the nursery door every morning, her quiet apology wrapped in cinnamon and warmth. The apartment no longer echoed only with a baby's cries, but also with laughter, soft footsteps in the hallway at night, and sometimes even peaceful silence. The kind that used to feel impossible for all three of them. None of them spoke again about biology, because now they had chosen each other, not out of obligation, but out of love. One May afternoon, after Caleb had fallen sound asleep, Lena stepped out onto the rooftop. The New York City skyline glowed soft amber, and Nathan was already there, waiting, slightly nervous like it was their first meeting. He handed her a cup of ginger tea, the kind she always drank when she was tired. Lena smiled gently. "You've got something to say?" Nathan stayed silent for a second, then pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. He knelt down, eyes never leaving hers. "Lena Torres, you came into my life during its darkest hour. You didn't just save Caleb. You saved me. You gave me sleep again, hope again, a reason to get up every day. I know this might seem a little soon, but to me you're already my family." He opened the box, a simple, elegant ring. "Will you make it official? Will you be my family? Forever?" Lena covered her mouth with her hand, tears welling up. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took his hand and placed it gently on her belly. "I have something to tell you too." A trembling smile crossed her lips. "I'm pregnant." Nathan froze. "You? What?" "I found out last week. I was waiting for the right moment, and there's no moment better than this." Nathan wrapped his arms around her, trembling. "We're going to have another baby." "A real family," Lena nodded, her eyes shining. That night they told Evelyn. She cried, not out of grief but relief. "She'll have someone beside her," she told Nathan, "and my grandchild will grow up in a house full of laughter." Not long after, Evelyn made a decision. She moved closer. She rented an apartment just 3 blocks away. Not intrusive, but close enough to be there when needed. Lena, now 3 months along, re-enrolled in the early childhood development program she had once abandoned. Nathan supported her through it all, picking up more of Caleb's care, making space for her classes, cheering her on when she doubted herself. Life wasn't easy. They were still learning to balance parenting, partnership, and healing old wounds. But for the first time, the path ahead felt clear. Inspired by Lena and Caleb's journey, Nathan launched a new project, the Family Support Center, a safe haven for single mothers, grieving parents, and new families to find not just resources, but real, compassionate support. He asked Lena to be the development advisor. Even while pregnant, she helped design the playrooms, the resting areas, the lactation lounges, the parent library, everything she had once needed but never had. Their little home was no longer just a refuge. It was a starting point, a place built from loss, shaped by resilience and held together by choice. And love, not the kind that arrives in a rush, but the kind that stays, that chooses you again and again, every day, through everything. They held a small wedding in a friend's backyard. Nothing fancy, no strangers, just the people who truly mattered. Evelyn, a few close friends, and Caleb, the ring bearer, looking adorably serious in his little suit. Lena wore a simple white dress, the waist gently flared to accommodate her 7-month belly. Her hair was loosely tied, and her face glowed, just like that first day Nathan had seen her in the kitchen, holding Caleb. When Nathan read his vows, he looked straight into her eyes and said, "I can't promise it'll always be easy, but I promise I'll always choose you, even on the hardest days." Lena choked up as she read hers, her fingers gripping his hand. "I once believed I'd never be a mother again, but then there was Caleb, then you, and now our daughter. I couldn't love more, even if I tried." Evelyn cried quietly. Caleb ran over and hugged his mother, then his father. They embraced under the golden light, an imperfect family, but a complete one. 2 months later, on a cold winter morning, Luna was born in Nathan's arms. She weighed nearly 3.5 kilos, strong, rosy, and with deep eyes that mirrored both her parents. Lena, exhausted but radiant, held her daughter close. "Did you know? I once thought I'd never hear this cry. But you came, and everything began again." Nathan kissed his wife's forehead and whispered, "Luna, our little moon. You brought light exactly when we needed it most." They named her Luna Rosales Carter, a name full of meaning, a new chapter, a new hope, a family rewritten through love. Life in their little family flowed quietly, with the scent of toast in the morning, children's laughter in the garden, and late nights holding each other close while listening to the steady breath of two little souls. Each day passed without the need for grandness, just the simple joy of having each other. And then, one day exactly 5 years after Luna's first cry filled the room, another piece of beautiful news arrived. A gentle reminder that love always finds room to grow once more. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye, yet inside their little home, every day had been marked by quiet moments of love and togetherness. That morning, like so many others, sunlight spilled gently through the kitchen window. The scent of toasted bread lingered in the air. Laughter echoed from the backyard. Caleb was teaching Luna how to build a mud city under the old mango tree. "Luna, if you put this rock here, the tower won't fall." "But I like it in the middle," Luna protested with conviction, her face smudged and glowing. Inside the house, Lena poured tea, resting her hand on her belly, feeling the tiny life growing inside her. She smiled softly as Nathan walked in, still half asleep. "So, are you ready to be a dad of 3? She teased, half serious. Nathan blinked. "Wait, what did you say?" Lena handed him the pregnancy test. 2 clear lines. Her face held nothing but calm joy. Nathan stood silent for a few seconds, then broke into laughter, pulling her into a hug. "Another miracle." "Are you sure?" he asked, voice barely holding steady. Lena nodded. "I checked 3 times. This test, it's something I never thought I'd hold again." He stared at her for so long, she finally broke the silence. "Are you okay?" And then the tears came. Not loud, not rushed. They simply slid down Nathan's cheeks, quiet and steady, as if years of fear, grief, and doubt had been washed away in a single moment of grace. He stepped forward, knelt in front of his wife, and placed both hands gently on her belly, like it held the rarest treasure in the world. "You're carrying our baby," he whispered, voice cracking. "Once again, we get to begin." He kissed her stomach softly, then looked up at Lena as if he were seeing her for the first time, like she was a miracle he never dared to ask for, and yet had been gifted again. "Thank you," he said, "not just for this child, but for always believing that family is something we can build, day by day, choice by choice, heartbeat by heartbeat." They still live with Mrs. Evelyn, now known lovingly by the kids as Grandma Evie, was nearing 70 but still full of warmth and spirit. Each morning she stopped by with a basket of muffins, played blocks with Caleb, read fairy tales to Luna, and sometimes taught Lena how to make strawberry jam, just like her mother used to. The relationship between Evelyn and Lena had grown into something deep and easy. No longer just mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, they were now companions, united by love for the same family and bonded by memories of those they'd lost. Whenever Evelyn watched Luna twirl through the yard or listened to Caleb's stories about school, her eyes sparkled with something rare: pride, deep emotion, and the peace of someone who had walked through grief and come out the other side. That night, after the children were asleep, Nathan and Lena sat in the garden where their wedding had taken place. The breeze carried the scent of flowers from the back fence. Nathan took Lena's hand, his eyes soft. "Do you remember that first night? When I walked into the kitchen and saw you holding Caleb, feeding him, you thought I'd throw you out." Lena chuckled, a touch of nostalgia in her eyes. "I was terrified, but then you just looked. No judgment, no anger. I think maybe fate is gentler than we think." They glanced toward the children's room, a soft golden light glowing from inside. Nathan murmured, "It's crazy. All of this started with something people might have called insane. But if I could go back, I'd still choose you. I'd still choose us." Lena leaned her head on his shoulder, her hand resting gently on her belly. "Some families are born from blood, but families like ours, they're born from choice, from patience, forgiveness, and love." And in that moment, no one remembered that Caleb didn't share Nathan's blood, that Luna had arrived like a gift from heaven, that everything had once begun in grief. They only knew one thing: this was family, and there was nothing more beautiful than that. On a quiet October afternoon, with golden autumn light brushing the leaves, Lena stood still in front of the white iron gate, the very gate that had opened into an entirely new life for her 6 years ago. Back then, she had almost nothing. In her arms, a baby that wasn't her own. In her heart, a grief she hadn't yet named. When that door opened, Lena thought she was walking into a job. Little did she know, she was stepping into destiny. She smiled, placing her hand gently over her belly. Inside, her third child stirred softly, as if listening to her mother's tender memories. From behind, Nathan wrapped his arms around her shoulders. "Thinking about the first day?" he asked gently. Lena nodded and leaned into him. "I still remember you opening the door, your face half asleep but still polite enough to ask, 'Are you the one here for the interview?' And you were the only one who didn't flinch at Caleb screaming." Nathan chuckled, kissing the top of her head. Laughter echoed from the backyard. Caleb, now 6, was showing Luna how to build a house out of wooden blocks. Evelyn, now proudly known as Grandma Evie, sat on the patio chair folding tiny towels for the baby that would soon arrive. In that moment, no one remembered the pain, the doubt, the unconventional past. There was only now, a family. The camera clicked softly, capturing 5 hands joined in a single frame. Fingers tangled, palms warm, hearts open. A photograph not of perfection, but of promise. Nathan wore a crisp white shirt. Lena glowed in a flowing maxi dress, her baby bump gently rounded. Caleb and Luna wore matching outfits, holding hands as they skipped across the garden. In front of the camera, all 5 held hands. A simple picture. No posing, no perfection. But in that single moment, Lena could see the entire journey, from that sleepless midnight to now. A journey that didn't begin with promises, but with a choice. Not born from perfection, but from sincerity. After the shoot, Lena sat on the front steps, the same ones where she once stood trembling, uncertain. Now she reached for her belly, leaned in, and whispered, "I will love you, little one, just as I have loved the children who came to me in ways no one ever expected." And in her heart, one circle gently closed, only to begin another. One stronger, one more beautiful, one built on the truest kind of love,